intellectualradio.com, its subsidiaries, or sponsors. Encouraging, educating, and empowering you into action. This is Warriors Talk with your host, Lady ReShell.
Hello. Welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we move away from awareness towards action. It's Health and Wellness Monday, and our topic for today is kidney health, what you need to know. We are live on Intellectual Radio. We just heard from the Drive at 5 with Roman. Keep it locked right here on Intellectual Radio and allow us to feed your brain. On the last episode of Warriors Talk, I spoke with breast cancer survivor Lauren Gritt, and we talked about her fight is our fight. Go over to YouTube, type in Intellectual Radio, stay connected for any episodes you may have missed. The quote of the day is, did you know that caffeine dehydrates the body and speeds up the aging of the skin and the kidneys? Here are your trending topics for today. According to CNN News, customs officers at a Detroit Metropolitan Airport made an unusual and potentially dangerous discovery in a passenger's luggage. They found 6 giant African snails. The snails, which were alive, were found in a suitcase of a traveler who arrived in Detroit from West Africa country of Ghana, according to a Friday's new release from the Customs and Borders Protection for the U.S. The critters are considered a prohibited organism in the U.S. because they can cause disease in humans and wreak havoc over the environment. Despite this, people around the world eat the snails and keep them as pets in some countries. Our Border Patrol officers and agriculture specialists work diligently to target, detect, and intercept potential threats before they have a chance to harm the U.S. Native to East Africa, the snails can grow up to 8 inches long. Giant African snails carry a parasite called rat lungworm that leads to meningitis in humans, and in addition, they can eat up to 500 different types of plants. They even consume plaster and stucco of houses as a source of calcium, which can lead to the environmental damage if they are released into the wild. In July, a Florida county was placed under quarantine after officials discovered a fast-growing population of the snails. The population had to be originated, they said, from an illegal pet trade. A previous population of giant African snails was found in Miami-Dade, Florida, and it took them 10 years and millions of dollars to eradicate it fully. The snails can produce up to 2,500 eggs per year, so this population is difficult to control. So that is your trending topic for today. I'm grateful for my sponsor, Emanuel Church of God in Christ, with Pastor Michael Richardson, who has a special message for us.
Greetings, I am Pastor Michael Richardson.
And I am First Lady Anastasia Richardson from the Emanuel Church of God in Christ. We're located at 3058 West Van Buren in Chicago, Illinois. We are building upon a solid foundation.
And we're inviting you to join us every Sunday morning on Facebook Live at Emanuel COGIC at 10:15 Central Standard Time. And you can also view our videos on our YouTube channel at Emanuel COGIC-MR. Once again, this is Pastor Michael Richardson
and First Lady Anastasia Richardson, and we are from the Emanuel Church of God in Christ. We are building upon a solid foundation.
Joining me today is no stranger to Warriors Talk. She is our healthy solution expert with over 20 years experience as a family physician, and she is impacting lives every single day. Hello, Dr. Michelle.
Hello, Lady ReShell. How are you today?
Good. Excited about this topic.
Yes. And happy spring, right? First day of spring.
Yes.
Good to be with you. We've gotten through the worst, I think.
I hope so.
Yes.
I'm ready to wear my toes out. Like, I'm just ready.
Yes.
I'm
Good.
ready. I am ready. If you are
Mhm.
tuned in on any form of social media, please like the show, share the show, invite someone else in that may benefit from this valuable information. And I see that Lisa is already here. Hey, Lisa.
Hello, good evening.
Yes. So this topic, Dr. Michelle, kidney health, what you need to know. So March is National Kidney Month. It's a global awareness campaign that seeks to spread awareness about chronic kidney disease and help us build better paths to kidney health.
Yes, this is a good topic, yeah, for us to talk about because we don't talk about kidney health in this sort of forum a lot. And a lot of people don't know that they have kidney disease when they do. And millions of Americans live with this every day, and it can be very asymptomatic. So it's good that we're talking about it, getting people to think about it, and then talk to their doctors about it too.
Yes. So according to statistics, and I know you're probably going to bring this up, in the United States, approximately 37 million adults are estimated to have chronic kidney disease, the National Kidney Foundation says, and just 10% of these people know that they have it.
Yes, because many times you have no symptoms, right? And so by the time you have symptoms, which we can talk about, it's sort of progressed, right? And the point is, it's not, kidney disease is not really curable, but it's controllable and it's treatable, but we always want to catch it early. And I always talk about going for your regular checkups, going for your annual visits, because one of the ways we check for kidney disease is with blood work, right? And so, and labs and urine tests and things like that. So it's important to know that there's tests for it. It's very treatable. You may not have symptoms, so don't wait till you have symptoms to find out you have it, because then it's going to really affect your life at that point.
So when we go for our annual exam, is that something that they're checking for at that point?
Yeah, normally when you go for that annual wellness visit, there should be blood work done. Part of that blood work is screening tests for things like kidney disease, because we know that people have no symptoms. And certainly, if you have medical conditions like heart disease, like high blood pressure, diabetes, or other medical conditions, they're going to be checking for that anyway. So I know sometimes patients will always ask me, well, what are you checking in that blood, right? When you get that. And that's part of what it is, because we can see early signs of kidney disease, even in blood work and in urine, that can lend us to look a little closer.
So when you go to the doctor and they saying, okay, I need you to pee in this cup, because we hate peeing in the cup. We
I
do. We hate
know.
doing it. Just go ahead and pee in the cup, and so that they can do the test that they need to do, and we could get answers, to what could be going on earlier.
Yeah, we can see extra protein in the urine, extra calcium. How does it, are you hydrated or not hydrated? Do you have an infection or not? All those things we see in the urine and can be signs of other things. So we definitely want you to follow through with that. I know it's a hassle, but it's important.
So it says that African Americans, not only us, but Hispanics and American Indians are at a high risk for developing kidney failure. And like you said, it was due to the diabetes, the high blood pressure at a higher rate than any other race.
Yes, right. We always talk about this when we talk about medical illnesses on your show, is that African Americans and Hispanics more likely to have diabetes, obesity, and the things that come from that, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and then that lends right down the trail to kidney disease. So some genetics can lead to kidney disease as well. But yeah, we are more at risk. Another reason to, even if you feel like you're healthy and have no medical problems, to go and get checked out. I can't tell you how many times I see people who say, no, I have nothing going on, but they haven't seen a doctor in 5 years, right?
So how do you know?
So how do you know? And then I come and tell them, no, they've got some things and they're not too happy with me at that point.
Hilarious. So what are kidneys and its function?
Yeah, good question. So the kidneys, I need some water, are two kidney bean shaped organs that sit sort of in your lower back area. And what they do is they filter toxins and waste from your blood, right? And those toxins and waste are then sent to the kidneys, to the urine, and then you pass that urine out, right? And so if your kidneys are not working well, right, then you will retain a lot of toxins. Sometimes it gets to the point where you're not even producing adequate amount of urine, which is towards the end stage. But it's a vital organ. We have two of them. You can live with one. Many people are born with one kidney. But yeah, it filters the waste from the blood, and it produces a hormone that also helps to regulate our blood pressure. And when the kidney is not working well, we can get high blood pressure from that as well. So important to know that.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sometimes the kidneys, it's a hormone called renin. We won't get too technical about it, but if the kidney is producing too much of that, then you can have high blood pressure. And that can be either genetics or other inflammatory reasons that your kidney might be producing this extra hormone. We all make that hormone, but sometimes it's out of balance and that can cause problems.
So I don't want to be jumping ahead a little bit, but how important is heart health to kidneys?
Yes, it goes both ways. Heart health is very important because two things can happen, right? So if your kidneys are not working well, then you get a buildup of other things like your electrolytes, your potassium, your calcium levels. Those have an effect on the heart and can cause heart issues, arrhythmias and such. Then the other thing is if your heart isn't working very well and you have heart failure, then your heart sometimes is not pumping well sufficiently to supply blood to the kidneys. And that can be a problem for your kidneys as well. So the kidneys can cause trouble for the heart, and the heart, if it's not working well, can cause trouble for the kidneys.
Well, and that's something you probably wouldn't even think that the two and two go hand in hand, a healthy heart, healthy kidneys.
Yeah.
That's important. I want to jump into talking about some of these. How do you keep your kidneys healthy?
Yeah.
We could talk about some of the symptoms, and then we can talk about like how do you keep them healthy?
Right. So many times there's no symptoms, but as it progresses, as those toxins and the fluid is building up in your system, you can have simple things like nausea, loss of appetite, or you can have swelling in your feet, which I think most people will sort of recognize if they have kidney disease. You can have muscle cramps from the imbalance of potassium and calcium in your system. So there are different symptoms that can occur. Yes, muscle cramps, the swelling in your feet, just general things like fatigue, not feeling good, malaise, all of that can be a part of it. And that sort of comes as that disease progresses, because lots of times, again, you don't have any symptoms and we need to catch it early because we need our kidneys. We just don't need two. Okay. Yes, dry, itchy skin for sure. Absolutely. As toxins build up, that shortness of breath can be from the fluid building up.
And you mentioned this one towards the end.
Urinating either too much or too little. So sometimes urinating a lot can be, do we have a sugar issue, a diabetes issue? And then urinating too little can be, if your kidneys are progressing, you do start to produce less urine because it's not working, it's not filtering, it's not pulling the fluids out.
Well, if you don't know, hey Angela, if you don't know, if it's silent and you don't know until it progressed, like what can we do? Like,
right. Mm-hmm.
So we watch, because the things that we just mentioned are those things when you already have kidney disease.
Right, right. So what do you're talking about prevention, right?
How do you know when your kidneys are failing? Like what your body is going to do? What is your body telling you? What signs are we going to see?
Right. So some of those things you will see, but again, I've had patients, there's different stages to kidney disease, right? So stage 3, 4, 5, end stage disease where you need dialysis and transplants. And I can have a patient on blood work, it will say, your kidneys are not working, you're at stage 3 or stage 4, and they may not have a lot of symptoms. So the thing is, what's causing it? What's causing this problem? And control that. That's what we can do, right? So shows like yours to educate patients, but what can you do? If you have diabetes, make sure you're controlling that. If you have high blood pressure, make sure that's controlled. If you're a smoker, we haven't even talked about the lifestyle things. If you're a smoker, stop smoking. Smoking, we think about for cancer and lungs, but I tell patients every time you smoke, that nicotine causes inflammation in any blood vessel. It's not going just to your lungs, right? It's going all throughout your body. And so if you think about, smoking can cause decreased circulation, right? So that's decreased circulation to your legs. It's decreased circulation to your kidneys. So every time you smoke, you're causing that inflammation, which is causing decreased blood flow to your kidneys, which over time causes kidney disease, right? So again, these are some of the lifestyle things that you can do. When you say, what can we do if we have no symptoms, right? Well, you've got to talk to your provider about what's causing it. So you control that. And then the lifestyle things like keeping your kidneys hydrated, drinking enough water, not smoking, eating a good, healthy, we always talk about a plant-based diet, things like that.
So, I mean, is there such thing as drinking too much? You're trying to flush out your system. I see people doing that, like drinking a lot of water, and I'm like, that can't be healthy. Like your body can only take so much water. Like you can't try to make up for it with drinking a whole gallon, like right then and there.
Yeah. So for the most part, if you have healthy kidneys, it's hard to drink too much water. But your body regulates it itself, right? As I'm always one, I try to drink, let's say, at least a liter of water a day, a liter and a half of water, right? But one of the things I'm looking at is at my urine color, right? You'll know if you're well enough hydrated. If you're well enough hydrated, your urine will be almost the color of water or pale yellow, right? If you really need more water, your urine's going to be dark yellow, the color of lemon, it's stuff like that. So that's one way to know, am I drinking enough water? Okay, if your urine is pretty pale, you're probably drinking enough water, right? You don't have to drink too much, but it's hard if you're healthy to drink too much water. It gets into a problem when you have heart disease and stuff like that.
Yes. I remember trying to get down 8 glasses of water, and my body was like, no. My body told me, no, you don't need it. I know we get water from like foods, fruits, and different things, but to actually try to get down those 8 glasses of water, my body was like, no, you don't need that. We good. So, but I heard that when you wake up in the morning, that your urine is going to be a little darker anyway, because you've been sleeping, you get up and you pass that urine, but not to be alarmed, because throughout the duration of the day, it should be the color that you said, like almost like that pale yellow color.
Right, exactly.
What if it's bubbly, like foamy?
Yeah, that could be a sign of kidney disease, as the certain gases, toxins are released into the urine. So you want to look for that. You want to look to make sure there's no bubbles or like what we call sediment, like little sandy calcium things, right? And the other thing we didn't mention is not just yellow urine, but you can have sort of dark color brownish urine, which can signify, kidney disease is sort of like a breakdown of hemoglobin, the blood cells. It can
Is
be
it
a sign
blood
of
in the
liver.
urine when it's that dark?
Right. It can be a breakdown of that hemoglobin, could be
Okay.
blood. Sometimes if you have severe liver disease, that can happen. You can see the urine looking sort of brownish color. So all those are signs that there's something going on.
What about people who are drinking? Like, can we drink too much, too
Right.
little? Like, what should we be for those people who drink?
Yeah. So we don't think excess alcohol in general necessarily causes directly kidney disease, but the issue with drinking a lot of alcohol is it can lead to obesity. And alcohol is really sugar, so it could take your sugar up, make your diabetes go out of control, cause liver disease, which can, then cause more issues with fluid buildup and things like that. So, from my recollection, there's no direct cause, but what the other things the alcohol is doing to our bodies can lead to kidney issues.
Yeah. I think it said drinking too much can harm all parts of your body, not just your kidney.
Right.
There's
Exactly.
the liver,
Right.
different parts of your body. So
yes,
exactly.
In moderation.
Okay. So since you said that, it says consuming more than 3 drinks a day for women or 4 drinks a day for men is considered heavy drinking, according to the National Heart Association. So if you know that you're drinking more than 3 drinks a day and you're a woman, for a man, then that's considered heavy drinking. And sooner or later, if you're doing it constantly, you're going to start having issues, not just with your kidney, but other parts of your body as well.
Yeah. And we always talk about what size of drink are we talking about? You're talking 4 to 8 ounces, a glass of wine or something. If you're drinking, because 1 pint of something isn't considered 1 drink, right? Because it's a lot.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So we've got to
clarify.
We really have to quantify that for some folks, right? But you are absolutely right. We 1 drink a day for women is okay, right? Depends on what it is. We think there's some benefits to drinking red wine. That's another show.
Right.
But
exactly.
Yes.
We need to do a whole show on that one.
Right.
People may get mad though. They may get mad about that because they love their wine.
I know.
So the National Kidney Foundation warns that regular heavy drinking affects the kidneys and their functions and double your risk of kidney disease.
Yes, because all those things we talked about, inflammation in the body, the sugars going up, it takes instead of drinking water, you're drinking alcohol. So you're now dehydrating yourself. All of those things together increases your risk.
Let's talk about over-the-counter drugs. Like, I'm sorry, like ibuprofen, Tylenol, aspirin, that may cause some sort of risk or sudden risk when it comes to kidney failure or progression to kidney disease.
Right. Yes. So those ibuprofen products, we call the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, NSAIDs, like your ibuprofens, like your Aleve, your Advils, your aspirin, they in long-term use have been shown to increase your risk of kidney disease. So if you need ibuprofen for something, for pain, fever control or something like that, and you need an anti-inflammatory to help your joint pain or whatever that might be, I recommend taking the lowest effective dose. If that's ibuprofen, over the counter, it's 200 milligrams. If that works, great. Take the low effective dose for no more than 3 to 5 days, right? So I much prefer that a patient takes the effective dose. Let's say take 400 milligrams 3 times a day for 3 days to get your pain better, versus you taking a little bit every day. I need it all the time, right? But some people do, right? As we get older, we've got joint aches, we've got inflammation. The take home is take the least effective dose of those, and for the short amount of time that you need it, And if you're someone who needs it long term, make sure you're getting your numbers checked, right? Make sure you're going in to get your numbers checked. You talked about acetaminophen, Tylenol. Not as much risk for kidney disease. High dose of acetaminophen tends to cause liver disease more so than the ibuprofens. And you've got a good statistic here, right? Use of those over-the-counter drugs for no more than 10 days for pain. I say 5 because people usually, if I say 5, then it might be 7, right? Or no more than 3 days for reducing a fever. And that's because, first of all, if you're taking the medicine for 3 days and you still have a fever, you need to be checked out. Why? Okay. And then if you're taking it for 10 days and you're still having pain, maybe there's some other cause or other modalities to treat your pain than that, for sure. So that's important to know. Also being aware that the medicines we use for sort of acid reflux, ulcers, what we call the proton pump inhibitors, that's your Prilosec, your Previcids. They do have a risk in long-term use of increasing your risk of kidney disease as well. Again, I'm always about lifestyle change, right? So for things like GERD, ulcer medications, if you need that a lot, we probably need to be talking about your diet, right? We need to talk about what's causing your ulcer. You don't want to be on those long-term without a break either.
Wow, that's some great information. I want to take a quick break because I want to recognize my sponsor. You guys, we are live on Intellectual Radio with Doc Michelle, and we're talking about kidney health, what you need to know. I want to recognize my sponsor, Gloria Dotson with Mary Kay. She's catering to all of your beauty needs from head to toe. You can go over to marykay.com/GDOTSON, or you can contact 773-749-6680. Let her know that Warriors Talk sent you. We're talking about kidney health today. And we know if you are an African American, you are definitely at risk for kidney disease, especially if you suffer from high blood pressure and diabetes. And we also talked about the heart. The heart and the kidney goes hand in hand. So making sure that you have a healthy heart because it can affect your kidneys as well. So, Dr. Michelle, we talked about a lot. That was a lot. We talked about what your kidneys are and the function that it filters the waste from your blood, and it also produces the hormones. We talked a little bit about the signs and symptoms. One of the things you talked about was it doesn't always have signs. You may not always have signs that you have kidney disease until you are maybe in their stage 3 or 4, because it's 5 different stages, right? Right. And Tabitha was online. I don't know if she's still here, but I know Tabitha is on dialysis and she's waiting for a kidney as well. So, and I had a sister who was type 1 diabetic that ended up being on dialysis. And we know that dialysis does, it's, I heard a doctor saying that it was like, it's almost like they feel like they have ran a marathon. When they get the dialysis, and then by the time you go home, you're tired, you rest, and by the time you get energy back, it's time to go again and get the dialysis all over again. So, that could be when you talk about just not the physical part, but the emotional part of someone who has to actually sit there and go through dialysis. And I think Tabitha, they were training her to do her own dialysis.
Right.
So if you could just imagine that. I guess it's a good thing. You don't have to really sit in, the doctor's office to do it. You can do it out of the comfort of your home, but it's like you still have to do it. So it's still the emotional and physical, part that your body and your mind has to go through, that I have to do this dialysis.
Yeah, dialysis is very draining to the body, just like you said. The good thing, I think, is this peritoneal dialysis, which patients are able to do from their home, where they can be trained to, instead of it coming from the arm, it's into the stomach, but it's much the improvement of lifestyle for people, right? Because they can do it overnight, and then they can hopefully have enough energy to do more things during the day. So it's not new, but it's good that more and more patients are getting that opportunity to do that. But you're right. It's so important to catch it early. Otherwise, you get to the point where you need hemodialysis or peritoneal or a kidney transplant. And there are so many people, I don't know the number, but there's so many people on the transplant list that it's very difficult, right, to find a donor. And, the closest donor would be a family relative, first degree relative, parent, siblings, children. But it's very hard, and people stay on dialysis and on a transplant list for years waiting for a kidney. And it gets back to, if we can catch things early, we always talk about this on your show. If we can catch things early, if we can educate you, right? It's about educating and then taking action, right? The action is get your numbers checked, go if you have your specific disease state, make sure it's well controlled, because it's the complications of diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease that can cause trouble for folks.
So there are two types of ways that you could get that dialysis. It just depends on where you are in that staging.
Yeah, it's peritoneal dialysis. You've got to be able to, first of all, want to do it at home, be comfortable doing it, have the whole wherewithal to be able to do things in a sterile manner, and all of that. But I've had patients, not a lot of them, because some of them don't want to be bothered with it. They have to have a lot of equipment, bags of dialysis products in their home, and sometimes it's not feasible. But a lot of patients like it because it does give them some flexibility. They're able to do it at night and be able to, do their activities during the day.
Now, do you know if they're more exhausted than the ones that, do it through, or is it the same?
It's pretty much the same, probably a little bit better for the peritoneal dialysis than regular hemodialysis, but both are quite exhausting. It's a very taxing process to the body to take out your blood, filter it, and bring it back in. It takes hours, and it's very stressful to our bodies.
I saw something about the cost, Dr. Michelle, when it comes to the dialysis. It said, so the second one you mentioned, not the one. Yes, so that one I think is a little cheaper, but the other one, they said it was about $100,000 to $145,000 per patient per year for them to do that. So this is really expensive, and not to mention what it costs maybe for them to be in therapy, because you have to, be able to cope with going through all of this.
Right. Yeah, and it's a lot of money, and that's just one thing we're talking about, right? Because if they've got kidney disease, they probably got other things, but yeah, the cost of peritoneal, theoretically, it makes sense that it's less, right? You don't have a nurse, you don't have all these other things. You're not using a facility, you're using your home. So that makes sense that it is less costly to the system. But you do have to really be motivated to do it. And again, that's one of the reasons that we talk about the cost of healthcare and what can we do from the magnitude of it and down to the individual level, right? Because when you have these medical conditions, you've got to pay for medications, doctor's visits, all those other things. Prevention is much better than trying to treat the disease once you get it. Because as you see, it can be quite costly in the end.
I see. I'm just thinking, because kidney disease does not have any symptoms, and if you're going to the doctor once a year and we're getting our blood drawn, then there should be, at some point, if something is going on, there should be, okay, the doctor, look, hey, I see these numbers, we need to think about doing XYZ. Before it gets to that point, like, is kidney disease reversible? Are you able to reverse it at some point? Because you see it all over YouTube, but you can't really believe everything that you hear.
Right. So people can get what we call an acute kidney injury. So that's not chronic disease. That's something happened and it caused some damage to your kidney. That could be from a bad infection, from being really dehydrated. So that's something that happens. We see those numbers when we check blood, that we can see that there's damage to the kidney, but many times that resolves itself, right? So an acute kidney disease injury from something that happened, like either even trauma or infection, dehydration, that gets better. But chronic kidney disease means that damage to your kidney has been there at least 3 months, right? It didn't resolve itself. It's been there at least 3 months, doesn't seem to be getting better. That's not really curable, right? Very treatable, right? Because we can figure out what is the underlying cause, right? Yes, you have chronic kidney disease, but what caused it? How do we prevent it from getting worse? So if you're a stage 2 or 3, that's where you stay for as long as possible. And that's where it's important to see your provider, because you want to have conversations with them over time, right? Even some supplements, doctors are not, we're not experts in supplements, but we can look things up very quickly and tell you, oh yeah, well, if you're taking this, maybe it's going to interact with your medicine and you shouldn't do that because it can lead to kidney disease. So I always tell patients we're all taking some form of a supplement here or there, take those to your provider with you so they can look that up and look at it and tell you, is it safe to take or not? But chronic kidney disease in general, we don't think is curable, but very well treatable. Sometimes we always see some improvements in the numbers, but that underlying sort of disease inflammation in the kidneys is sort of always there.
So is it a way to slow down the progression of kidney disease?
Absolutely. I tell patients all the time, not because you're at this point means that it will progress, but here's how we help it to not get worse. If you smoke, quit. If you're overweight, try to walk or exercise 30 minutes a day if you can, to maintain a healthy weight, maintain a healthy diet, right? So you want to eat more plant-based foods and less foods with high sodium. Things with high protein foods can cause the kidneys to work more, right? So high protein foods.
I have a lady, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have
Go
a
ahead.
lady at my job that she's in stage 3
Mm-hmm.
with kidney disease, and she was telling me, she had to change her whole diet, and she mentioned something about protein. She was like, yeah, I can't have too much protein when I eat. And I'm just like, what? I'm trying to get more protein. You can't have any. She was like, no, it's the opposite for me. And I was just like, oh, wow. So I learned something new. I didn't know that the protein would affect someone who had kidney disease. I was like, wow.
Yeah. When we eat a lot of protein, and especially like the red meats and such, as our bodies break it down, that can produce more waste, which then has to be filtered through the kidneys, which then causes the kidneys to work more, which is not good if you already have kidney disease.
Well, what about the healthy proteins, like the plant-based proteins? Like, is that different when it comes to, I'm sure it is when it's breaking it down.
Right. So that's definitely better for you than the others. And depending on the stage of someone's kidney disease, I definitely recommend that they see a dietitian, right? Because a lot of times we don't know, right? What is the good proteins? How much is too much? What about the carbs and the sodium and all of that? And it can be overwhelming, right? And it's hard to change your old habits without real guidance, right? And someone to walk you through it. I've had some dietitians in the past, they will make an appointment to go to a grocery store with the person to show, okay, well, show me how you normally purchase food, and here's what you should get instead of because of your disease.
Wow. That makes sense. You have to, teach them how to, I guess, break that habit and what to get. Because sometimes, most of the times we go to the store hungry and we just grabbing, things not really planned out, healthy meals when we go, and we end up spending more money when we do it that way.
You don't really know, if you've never really bought food that way, different way for kidney disease, you don't know what to get. So most insurances will cover you seeing a registered dietitian based on the disease state that you have. So they should ask and inquire about that.
You would think it would be at any stage, though, especially if you're trying to prevent it from progressing. It would be like, okay, stage 1, 2, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it don't hurt to ask.
It doesn't
right?
hurt to ask. All plans are different. All insurance plans are different. It would be great. Absolutely. Right. A nutritionist or a dietitian, if you're talking about prevention, that should be available to all of us to teach us, because those, if you think about the populations we talked about that are higher risk, they may not have that education to know all the things that they need to do. Right.
So you mentioned some of the things that you can do to stay healthy. One of them is to get tested. We mentioned the blood. Is there an actual blood test for kidney disease, or is it just a blood test that you normally would take when you would go and get your annual exam?
So the beginning part is the screening test, which checks for different values like a creatinine. We check your electrolytes, your sodium level, chloride. We check for those things, right? And then depending on what that looks like, do we need to go further? So sometimes we collect urine from patients. We do a kidney ultrasound, right? If I see that someone's numbers are not quite right, they're not quite normal, and maybe you're telling me we don't really have any of these other things, reasons for you to have kidney disease. We check a kidney ultrasound. We check one anyway if you have kidney disease, right? We check what we call a renal ultrasound to look to see, is there any other reason there, like a tumor or polycystic kidney disease, or any sort of evidence we can tell from the ultrasound of other inflammation in the kidneys, right? That could be genetic. So we do an ultrasound to make sure that we've sort of looked at all causes that could be possible and rule it out as a cause. Then we can say, oh yeah, it's just your high blood pressure. We don't see anything else going on with your kidney.
Let's get into some of the facts and the myths. We love to do those.
Yes.
As part of our education for everyone. So one of the facts or myth says that kidney disease is rare.
No, there's millions. I think it's 3 million, if not more, people that are living with kidney disease. It's not rare. It's just that people don't really talk much about it. And then again, they may not know they have it if they haven't been checked.
That's what it says, that no, people just don't talk that much about it.
Right.
The next one is, if you had chronic kidney disease, you'll know it.
Right. Yeah. So we know that to not be true. And we know that kidney disease, for the most part, it progresses slowly. So the good thing is if we catch it, we can do things to help prevent it from getting worse. Because even with patients I've had who have diabetes and hypertension and heart disease, it still progresses slowly, but you want to be sure that it doesn't get worse to significant damage.
So you have some time in there if you're going to the doctor regularly to get on the right track and do something.
Mm-hmm.
The next one, fact or myth, is kidney disease is caused by alcohol drinking.
Yeah, so we talked about that, right? Excess alcohol is bad for many organs. We know alcohol use, because it increases your sugar level, it can lead to obesity, it can lead to diabetes with overuse, and all of that can then translate to kidney disease over time. So excess alcohol, we usually say 1 drink for a woman, maybe 2 for a man on a daily basis, of 4 to 8 ounces. Okay.
All right, so the next one says, does drinking lots of water help keep your kidneys working well?
Yeah, and we talked about that. Yes, so drinking water helps to hydrate you and flush your kidneys, right? And so we talked about that it's hard if you're healthy to drink too much water, but you got to be careful if you have heart disease or kidney disease already. But it definitely helps to flush toxins out, prevent kidney stones. People can be more at risk of kidney stones when they are sort of chronically dehydrated.
That was the next one. Kidney stones lead to kidney disease.
Right. So many times kidney stones are, they can pass on their own, but when you have kidney stones that are larger and they're irritating the pathway, and it's sort of chronic, yes, it can cause kidney disease. And again, that's why it's important to drink water to flush the system.
So if you get kidney stones, should you be worried that, or should you maybe, I'm assuming the doctor may do some type of testing anyway if you have the kidney stones.
Yeah, so we do different tests. One is an ultrasound, and then another is a urogram test where we can see how the urine is passing through your system. And if we see stones that are, stones can be like sand. They can be pretty tiny, or they can be pretty large. If we saw large kidney stones that would not be passable, then they do different procedures. We do laser to break it up into sand, and then it can pass in the urine. But if it's chronic and not treated, it can cause inflammation in the kidneys.
Oh, wow. Oh, I want to say hi to Brenda or Rick from Let's Stay
Mhm.
Together Talk. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Also to Ruben, thanks for joining. So the next myth or fact says chronic kidney disease can be cured.
Yeah, we touched on this earlier, and no, not really cured, treated and prevented, right? Lose weight, quit smoking if you smoke, watch your salt intake, and really just, we talk about this all the time, stay active.
Yeah.
Stay active. 30 minutes of walking, on a daily basis, at least 5 times a week, works wonders for so many things.
Well, Lisa said, I heard that kidney stones are extremely painful. If it's anything like gallstones, she feels sorry for that individual.
Yes, when you have a kidney stone, it can cause spasms, which that's what causes that pain. Again, if it's not, even when you're passing a kidney stone, it causes lots of pain and spasms, depending on the size. A specialist can go and they can break it up with laser, so it's kind of sand-like, or they do a procedure depending on the size. They can sort of hook it and take it out. Lots of great things in medicine that specialists can do. But yeah, it is painful because the kidney spasms around that stone because it knows it's not supposed to be there. So
Is your body like, no, get out of here? No.
yes, pretty much.
Wow. Kenya said this is some very good information.
Thank you. Thank you for
Dr.
joining.
always brings the heat when she comes. Yeah, she always brings the heat. So the next myth or fact says the acute kidney injury always leads to chronic kidney disease.
Yeah, and that's a myth we had touched on, right? You can have an acute kidney injury from things like infection, trauma, but that usually resolves itself, usually within days, hours. We think of chronic kidney disease if those numbers and that disease is there for like 90 days or longer.
And the last one, fact or myth, says chronic kidney disease is genetic, so it can't be prevented.
Yeah, well, it definitely can be prevented. There are some people who have genetic predisposition to getting kidney disease, but that's a small amount of people. Most people get it from the other things we've talked about, right? The medications, the medical issues, things like that. The genetic predisposition is a small group.
Let's Stay Together Talk says, maybe I missed that, but what are the first stages of making you aware that you have kidney stones?
Kidney stones, okay, versus kidney disease. So for kidney stones, even we can sometimes see in urine, if she's talking of kidney stones, we can sometimes see in urine some things like excess calcium, because calcium is what some stones are made of. We can see like blood that you may not see with the naked eye, because again, that stone is sort of irritating the renal pathway. So there are different things we can see in the urine that would concern us enough to do a renal ultrasound, to do that kidney ultrasound. And we can see stones on an ultrasound, or sometimes we need a CAT scan, but for the most part, we can see it on an ultrasound, and then we figure out what's the next steps.
Wow. Some great
But really, again, it's drinking water prevents that because you're hydrating and you're flushing your kidneys.
Wow.
Drink
That's
enough water. Keep the urine moving. Keep it moving.
keep it going. That's good to know. Dr. Michelle, I always appreciate you bringing your wisdom. You have a wealth of knowledge. I just want you to give some words of wisdom to individuals about kidney health.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So kidney health is so important because we need our kidneys to live, to function, to remove waste from the body, right? And it's important that because it's asymptomatic for the most part, you don't have symptoms until it's almost too late. It's important to get your kidneys checked by your provider, right? That means go in, get at least your annual wellness visit. And if you have other medical issues, you should be going even more often. And then, as we always talk about on this show, it's lifestyle modifications. It's quit smoking if you do. It's maintain a healthy weight and a healthy diet. It's get moving. Walking at least 30 minutes 5 times a week helps to decrease your risk by decreasing your risk of obesity and high blood pressure.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Dr. Michelle.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you for having me again.
Always. Hey, you guys, don't go anywhere. Coming up next at 7 p.m. on Intellectual Radio is The People Show with Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas. I will leave you with these words of wisdom. The challenge is not to be perfect. It is to be whole. Join me next Monday at 6 p.m. right here on Intellectual Radio. As always, thank you for tuning in to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we are changing lives one warrior at a time.
Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell. To find out more about Warriors Talk, follow at Warriors Talk, the number 1, on all social media outlets, and Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell on YouTube. Please join us next week and every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on intellectualradio.com for Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell, where we encourage, educate, and empower you into action.